The voice of sharing, DurianASEAN.
ASEAN Dailies. First and foremost news from Southeast Asia.
Hi, this is Arlene.
Good morning, this is Grace.
And of course, you are with us at our usual ASEAN Daily, where we bring you news from Southeast Asia and also beyond. So we start with a country that had just concluded their election, and it is no other than the United Kingdom.
And then, as much as the election is over, however, there are some effects after the election, and then they showing the unhappiness with the result of the election.
In fact, yeah, the unhappiness has led to a protest erupted in central London against the re-election of Britain's Conservative Prime Minister David Cameron.
And the police apparently arrested around 17 people, and the 4 police officers and 1 member of police staff were injured. So it looks like there were a bit of violence, and the people were attacking.
There were demonstrators throwing bottles, cans, and smoke bombs at not just the police, but also I guess in general they were really discontent about the election result itself. But you know, if you look at the UK election, it's actually quite similar to Malaysia in a way that it follows the system of first past the post. In this case, even if you have a lot of people voting for you, but the number of parliamentarians might not reflect the popular vote. So in the case of UK, if you look at the numbers, the Conservative didn't really win on the popular votes, but they won the the number of majority parliamentary seats because of the breakdown or gerrymandering that is in the UK. Of course, the system of first past the post enhanced that particular disconnect between popular votes and first past and also the number of parliamentary seats.
And in this case, a UK election that was held on the Thursday, and what happened was, yes, you're right there, that there are a few parties, including the Scottish National Party, where Conservative Party, they won the seats around more than 50%, which is just exactly 51, and then the Scottish National Party was around the 56 or 9% there. So it shows that from the people's perspective, the people of Scotland on Thursday, they also voted for SNP manifesto, which had ending austerity as its #1 priority, and also this priority that these men and women will now take to the very heart of the Westminster agenda. And when we go back to the person who won this election, Mr. Cameron, he had this government ran for this is the second 5-year term for him, and apparently that brought a lot of negativity as well as unhappiness from people.
And yeah, if you look at the breakdown in terms of the Conservative, the Labour Party, Scottish National Party, all in all, of course, Conservative Party lead the way, but it's a very close call, and a lot of people were surprised that the Labour Party didn't win that much seats. The same with the Scottish National Party itself. And I think a lot of people are discontent with the Tories' policy, which is very much a neoliberal policy. A lot of people are trying to perhaps looking at ways that if they can have a different kind of UK. But to me, I think the future of United Kingdom will definitely maintain the same under the current David Cameron's leadership. Will be very much hawkish and very much more I would say neoliberal, focusing more on trade liberalization, as well as in a way, I think in his mind he still wants UK to be part of EU, although he promised that there will be an EU referendum in 2017. So I think he will still maintain the same. I would say this is a boring election if there is a word to describe it.
And at the same time, Dave Cameron is pretty famous with his reputation in the politics in the UK. And in fact, according to the article that I'm reading right now, David Cameron will try to convince backbenchers that he has changed his leadership style, and also in an attempt to head off the parliamentary rebellions that would wreck his legislative program.
So there you go, UK politics, a brief introduction of it, I guess. But to relate it to the Malaysian politics, of course, recently we have our own by-election where the opposition party PKR won. They maintained the seat that Anwar Ibrahim once seated there. So congratulations to Wan Aziza. Hopefully that interesting things will be coming out from PKR soon. On the other hand, of course, our Barisan Nasional, a Malaysian coalition party for the government, its leader, Prime Minister Najib Razak, of course, he refuses to quit, say that he has the people's support. He said that, I will not bow to pressure and quit as Prime Minister or UMNO President. There you go. He is staying strong.
Personally, I really don't know what to say to this statement. It sounds very ambitious, and it sounds like as if he's promising something to the public again. However, who are these people that really voted for Prime Minister in Malaysia? And in addition to the statement that he made, he also said, I was elected as Prime Minister in a democratic way, and no one individual has a right to ask me to step down. But in fact, there were also several rumors that this coming up elections, Prime Minister Najib Razak will be no more in the government position, but he still shows his wills and also the ambition towards that him staying in the government.
Well, a lot of you guys are asking like why suddenly he's being so reactive about whether he should quit or not quit as the Prime Minister. This is due to the fact that his, I guess, mentor or former mentor, Tun Mahathir, he actually called for him to step down. Of course, it's a very heavy word for a former Prime Minister to ask the current Prime Minister to step down from his post. And this is in relation to, I guess, in a way, not just about the 1MDB, of course, that's the obvious one, but I guess as a whole of what is supposedly a weak leadership by the current Prime Minister of Malaysia. But to me, personally, I think whether he should step down or not is really not the focus here. I think the focus here is what can we do to move forward. Perhaps I'm the kind of person that is a bit non-partisan. I always believe that if you do your job, people will respect you for who you are, and I see that there's a lot of things that we need to improve.
But when it comes to the government support, there are certainly a group of people who gets benefits from the government.
Yes.
But there are also the majority of group of people who do not get any benefits. And those people are who have been raising their voices towards the government. But where is the resolution to this? And has our PM really listened to the voice of people, and has really come up with the resolution to communicate with the people? If he continues to stay in the same position for the next another 5 years, what will be the changes? And will there be any change from the first place?
I think getting yourself down to the ground, to the masses, is really, really important as a leader. As much as you can have former Prime Minister calling you to step down, at the end of the day, it's the voices of the people that matter. in this case, I think Prime Minister Najib Razak needs to get people not get people, but get himself to the grassroots and really listen to the people and get great advisors who can somehow bring the message of the people directly to Putrajaya, to him personally.
In addition to that, don't forget the recent issue regarding the
tabung haji, the tabung haji.
Yes, which is very controversial, and then that brings a lot of worries and sort of miserable the expectation among public.
Yes.
And the people are still very worried, and one MDB is losing money, and at the same time regarding the lands that it was sold at certain amount, and after that how one MDB bought the land at the 5 or 6 times higher than that, and it will be very hard, and it will only make the Prime Minister in the harder position.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny because Prime Minister Najib Razak is promoting trade liberalization and a more competitive economy, market economy. But from what we see, this is not what a free market is supposed to be. A free market supposed to, in fact, for government buying the lowest price possible, of course, at a cost of open tender and open policy. So I think Najib Razak needs to really look at what has he done wrong and how can he address it. And I think on the larger scale, he needs to communicate well with Malaysian citizen. I mean, like even us ourselves, we are raising a lot of questions, but are we getting enough answers from the government? And if the government can communicate well with the people, providing information, being more transparent, I think people will respect that.
Of course.
Yeah.
Of course.
So from Malaysian government, we move to another government, which is, of course, the Philippines. Aquino and Grace Poe are in talks on next year's poll in 2016.
And then they made a visit to Canada. So that sort of shows straight away the relationship between the Philippines and Canada. So, in fact, more than 2,000 Filipinos, they are living in Toronto, and they welcomed President Aquino during his visit there. And of course, Aquino was speaking in Tagalog, and he was warmly applauded, especially when he gave the examples of how millions of the pesos have been saved through more than transparent and effective management of public resources. But the question here is, why was he invited to Canada out of all those countries there? And there is apparently the general perception, because the election is coming up this year, and the Conservative Party of Prime Minister Harper is seeking the approval of ethnic and diaspora communities as well.
You mean election in Canada, right?
Yeah.
Okay. That's interesting because I think countries like Canada, they are increasingly becoming a multicultural society, or they already are.
Yeah.
So they need to provide that multi-layered dimension in terms of what a Canadian identity is supposed to be, and that should reflect in the government policy reforms as well. And during the meeting, Grace Poe said that the president and herself met, reiterated the importance of selecting a candidate who will continue the program of reform and good governance. And I think good governance is one of the key area that we need to address in governments as a whole. And I personally think it would be interesting to see Senator Grace Poe running for president.
Oh, that'll be another story in the Philippines. Yeah.
Then we will need to ask his son about it. His opinion on it.
Yes.
Yeah. So anyway, Grace Poe said that her doors are still open for a continuing process and discussion for a possibility to run for presidency, I suppose. And yeah, the latest survey showed that Poe is in a statistically political tie with Vice President Jojomar Binay in the presidential race and top choice for Vice President.
Right.
So all the best for Grace Poe, and hopefully with such really, I would say, progressive, intelligent and enlightened candidate, Philippines can move forward, especially in the ASEAN economic community and of course regionally and globally as a whole.
Yes.
So we'll take one short break. When we return, we will discuss more about the ASEAN Daily, the news that matters to you.
ASEAN Dailies. First and the foremost news from Southeast Asia.
Hi, this is Arlene.
Welcome back. This is Grace.
And of course, you are with us on ASEAN Daily. So from the Philippines, we move on to Indonesia. Of course, the news of the day in Indonesia would be the freeing of Papua political prisoners. Very rare, actually, in Indonesian main news featuring Papua news. So this is actually an accomplishment by Jokowi himself.
And then, like you mentioned, Arlene, it's the release of several political prisoners in Papua. And Indonesian President Joko Widodo was already announced the release of them. And it is actually in the eastern province of Papua, and seeking a repair the right to record left in their tatters by the recent execution of these foreigners.
Well, that's an opinion, I guess, in a way to, a lot of people are saying that, oh, he's trying to redeem himself, which is true. But I think we also need to understand the situation in Papua. Many times the human rights in Papua has been neglected. So for far too long, Papuan voices has been somehow not been given a fair chance to voice up. And I think it's a great deal for Jokowi to release this political prisoner. So for decades, separatists in Papua have fought a low-level insurgency against the central government, and dozens are in jail for committing treasons for acts such as raising the separatist Morning Star flag and taking part in anti-government protests. So in the release actually would mark a change in approach from previous governments. During the 10-year rule of previous President Susilo Bambang Yudhoyono, only one political prisoner in Papua was granted clemency. This is, of course, according to Human Rights Watch. I personally think it's a great move forward. It might be seen as a populist move, but considering what is happening in Papua right now, and I think Jokowi definitely want to mend the relationship between the central government in Jakarta with Papua, which is one of the least I guess the most neglected region within the Indonesia's 5 different big islands.
Yeah, you're correct there. I mean, compared to other parts of Indonesia, Papua still remains deeply poor, and that's one of the concerns that Joko Widodo did express to improve the livelihood in Papua. And the president also has faced a lot of controversial and also the pressure of this international outrage since the death of the 7 foreigners just happened a couple of weeks ago. And it is a good step, but also at the same time, it's not really something new. And prisoners have to, like you mentioned, that they have to request clemency and admit guilt before it is granted. And some prisoners in Papua have repeatedly refused to seek clemency when invited to do so by the government, in fact.
So I think what we are looking at here is hopefully it's not just releasing a political prisoner, but to somehow recognize Papua as either as an independent state or as a state that can be autonomous, but still part of Indonesia in a way, just like what we see in Aceh. I think it's important for the Papuan to feel that they can develop Papua through their own means. But at the same time, I think we need to take this particular issue with a grain of salt, because we still have yet to understand Jokowi as a whole in terms of what is his human rights understanding or human rights approach. Especially he's giving us mixed messages in terms of the death penalty, and then the freeing of political prisoner, and then the pleading with the Saudi Arabian government to free his own citizen. So we are not sure where he's standing, in fact.
Well, where he firmly stands, actually it did show, because that's the law of Indonesia. And then just because he's a president of 18 nation, it is also very hard for him to just amend the law just like that, just overnight. It comes with a lot of consideration. But after all, perhaps to his understanding, to his perspectives, certain laws are still necessary, even though all those laws are coming from the colonial and also the historical backgrounds. Some needs to be amended, but I believe that he will have his firm ideas towards the certain laws. And regarding this execution of foreigners that just happened, also he wouldn't just come up with the conclusion or a verdict on this execution of the foreigners. And also regarding to this releasing of the political prisoners, it also firmly shows that he still wants to improve and tries to understand that perspectives coming from the Papua, that particular area. So I guess it is sort of a different stories, but ironically it happened just one after the other.
So in a way, we just have to see what's next in terms of Jokowi's move, especially in terms of his human rights approach in Indonesia. So on the other hand, another human rights issue that ASEAN is taking action on is the human rights trafficking. So apparently, Labour Secretary Rosalinda Baldos said that receiving state have an obligation to provide migrant workers with adequate access to the legal assistance, as she urged joint action by ASEAN countries to combat human trafficking. Human trafficking definitely is a very, very I would say grave issue in Southeast Asia. Of course, we can there's so many issues that are really, really impinging Southeast Asia, but human trafficking would be the number one, I would say.
And this issues is gladly accepted, as in to come with a resolution. And the Filipino is one of the ASEAN countries that came up with a statement that it really needs to be amended. And then it will also provide migrant workers who may be victims of discrimination, abuse, exploitation, or violence with an adequate access to the legal and judicial system of the receiving states, which sounds very positive at this stage. But my question here is, will ASEAN really look into these certain issues in regards to human rights and be able to resolve as one organization?
That's I guess the biggest question in the room, or the elephant in the room. Although Baldos did not mention in the speech read on behalf of her conferido, the same premise was used by the Philippines and Indonesian government in handling the case involving Mary Jane Veloso, 30-year-old. She was convicted in 2010 for smuggling drugs in Indonesia. So ASEAN authorities need to have practical procedures and protocols for dealing with the reality of migrants who have become undocumented through no fault of their own. She was forced into smuggling drugs. It was out of her awareness that she was in fact carrying those bags of drugs. Anyway, I think on the legal side is definitely a responsibility for ASEAN countries in combating human trafficking and drug menace. But although they might not be able to offer effective solution to migrant problems alone, I think we need to create, I guess, integrated, overarching framework on issues that affects migrant workers in this region. So anyway, we will take another one short break. When we return, we will talk about Vietnam as well as on the TPP.
ASEAN Dailies. First and foremost news from Southeast Asia.
Hi, this is Arlene.
Hi, this is Grace.
And of course, you are with us again on the ASEAN Daily. Let's move on to Vietnam. So Vietnam fears that it may lose qualified workers to ASEAN. That's actually kind of real. It's a real fear.
Why would they want to afraid that they may lose to ASEAN countries?
I think it's about the pay scale. Countries like Malaysia, Singapore, and even as far as, I guess, Thailand, and also Brunei, we are able to pay better. In comparison to Vietnam, they are still very much, I guess, in the state where they are not able to move on the GDP and as well as the wage earning index in a way that laborers in Vietnam are extremely cheap. So if you are a skilled labor, would you rather work in Vietnam, or would you rather migrate to Malaysia or Singapore? I think a lot of people might opt to migrate to Singapore.
It's very interesting because if you think at the ASEAN level, it's actually a good sign that we're exchanging the workers from Vietnam to other ASEAN countries. However, if you think nation-wise, Vietnam itself, they're losing a lot of good skilled workers. So for sure that brings worrisome to Vietnam. And in fact, especially for small businesses, it's already shown the low quality for labor force and as well as the payment. So they prefer to work for multinational groups. So that is the consideration when it comes to high quality managers. And most of businesses, they expressed that they have to spend time to retrain their workforce after the recruitment.
So it's a high there's a high turnover rate. Actually, a high turnover rate is a bad thing, especially for small businesses, because the fact that you need to constantly retrain your workers again and again, that means that you are providing higher costs. On another hand, I think low quality of the labor force is definitely a headache to Vietnamese businesses, most of which are small and tiny. Like skilled labor. Is a very rare thing. As much as we want to talk about unemployment, graduates with a degree but they are unable to get themselves employed, but there are a lot of, but on the employer side, they are complaining that they are not getting enough applicants who are skilled laborers.
And at the same time, well, how will ASEAN will resolve to this? Because different countries have their different economical state, and when it comes to payment, also they have a different types of the wages, the standard wages when it comes to skilled workers. And then definitely Singapore and Thailand, they have been working on to apply the human capital management, but most Vietnamese businesses are still busy with the managing personnel and also human resources and with the profiles, salaries, and bonuses. All these small matters they're still focusing on.
Yeah. So I think as much as we want to blame the workers for either being unskilled or not fully skilled, but I think as a whole, the way business think about employing talent, they need to change it. They need to tweak it a bit. They need to think beyond just employing talent. They need to think about career development of their workers. They need to think about paying a salary scale that is on par with the workers' skill and talent. And overall, I think they need to start think about human capital management. This is very much lacking, even I guess in Malaysia, in a way that you just employ for the sake of employing graduates, but you don't think about how to manage this human capital, how to grow and define this human capital in a way that they themselves can feel empowered to grow businesses and I guess as a whole develop the economy of Southeast Asia. So on another hand, we have a news on TPP. So how lowering tariff under the TPP could send more, guess what, Nike jobs to Vietnam. And of course, it will definitely harm the company, unfortunately.
And think about Nike company, such a huge company, and it's really well known from generations to generation. And then how this will bring to Vietnam, that's another question, because we just talked about how these skillful laborers, they go outside of their own countries to get jobs and for the better wages for them. But new TPP, the President Obama is promoting, it will bring benefit for American economy, of course, and also the economies that participating in this agreement.
But in practice, the trade accords have winners and losers. This is why they are so politicized. For example, tariff elimination under TPP may provide Nike an opportunity to outsource more jobs to Vietnam, not less. Unless, of course, there's something missing. Of course, there is an argument that the money saved in the tariff could be plowed back to research and development to strengthen Nike's competitive advantage. But Nike is a highly profitable company. He has plenty of funds to plow into R&D. So, is it even a strategic choice here? So in the long term, TPP may end up harming rather than benefiting Nike if it leads to further outsourcing to Vietnam and other countries, contrary to what officially claimed in this point by the company. I guess what the opinion here is, even though outsourcing might be good in terms of lowering costs, but in fact it's bad in terms of the company itself, where you do not have you do not have that kind of jobs to provide for your original country that you're supposed to provide more jobs.
Well, that's correct.
Yeah.
And then this I can't believe, and also I can't foresee that TPP will end up harming the company rather than bringing more benefits. I mean, having this a non-tariff barrier when it comes to big companies, and especially to bring to one of the developing countries, and one of them is Vietnam, it will bring the benefits to the country, but how about the company itself, the image?
Or the original
benefits?
Country that it came from, in this case, the American economy. It will be, you have a successful company like Nike, but majority of its operations are, let's say, in Vietnam or Southeast Asia. So at the end of the day, even though Nike is an American identity, a company that associated itself with America, but it has nothing that would benefit Americans. So Americans will be the loser of TPP. This is a very complex issue here, because TPP is a new level of global trade bloc. It is so different. It's not based on nationalism, or it's not based on benefiting countries. Companies coming from that particular country origin. It's more about how there's countries that is involved in the trade itself, trade bloc itself, can become like a pool of markets to tap into.
And at the same time, this TPP agreement, a lot of people have this perception that it is very American agreement, where America wants to be the central power of this agreement, that not many countries do agree. In fact, the President Obama expressed that regarding this Nike non-tariff barrier, it will only bring the benefit to the American economic. But my question is, will it really bring the benefits to the nation and also the company?
Do you know who will benefit from this trade agreement? Just the top 1%. That's it. Because they are the owners of this company. Instead of having just the American market or the American production or supply chain, they have the world. Of course, they can always tap the cheapest production base and supply chain, while selling at a higher cost at whoever that wants their product. And in this case, they have a larger market to tap into. So yeah, there you go. We are the losers. Before we end the discussion here, just a bit of a statistic to somehow cheer you up. Guess which country is ranked the safest in the world, Grace?
Ninth safest.
Oh,
right?
ninth safest.
It's apparently the Davao City, and then it is the world's one of the safest cities, and Davao City has the index of 80.69 and a crime index of 19.31, which is pretty low, and it's even safer that Stuttgart in the, Germany and Abu Dhabi and Hong Kong, or
But
even
where
Switzerland.
is it? Davao City, is it in the Philippines? Yeah, it is a city on Mindanao, the Philippines. Davao City. That's such an irony. I mean, in Mindanao, seriously, with all the terrorist activity that is being reported in Mindanao, but that's the irony of it all. But it's such a very interesting, I would say, statistic.
Statistics like this included the conditions of the living condition, including the cost of living, housing indicators, healthcare, traffic, crime, and pollution. So with all that categories, it is ranked 9th safest cities.
See, not everything about Mindanao is that bad, and not everything about Mindanao involves terrorism. Anyway, that's all from us today.
And then look for us more information at our website DurianASEAN.com, and we also have our social media channels such as Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Instagram.
And of course, you can always listen to us on the go via your mobile. Just go to the TuneIn app and search for DurianASEAN. This is Arlene signing off.
And that was Grace.